talk to you a little bit. One of the reasons I was invited to come is to talk about the Care Coordination Empowering Families training, which is a training that was developed by Region 4 Midwest Genetics Collaborative for families to help them learn a little bit more about how to coordinate care for their child. A little bit of background. We had a work group that was focused on care coordination, and through the process of having that work group, which included families, public health, and clinicians, they really found that even when care coordination is provided within a medical home, that the role of the parent was still a pretty important one. And a lot of the parents felt like they didn't have what they needed to get their child the best care. So they took a look across the country to see if there were any types of curriculum out there, anything that, any tools, what they could put together. Really didn't find anything. So they sat down, kind of wrote up some objectives. I wasn't part of that whole process. I came in about halfway through. Wrote up the objectives, and then Region 4 worked with a professional curriculum developer to help kind of develop this curriculum. I came in, like I said, about halfway through. Some of the curriculum that we got from the professional curriculum developer was really good, and some of it we took a look at and said, hey, this doesn't quite match what we need. So we spent a little time really tweaking it, and did some pilots and things like that. So I wanted to include this because this is the definition that Region 4 came up with for care coordination, and that it is a needs-driven, team-based process that values families as essential partners. Care coordination is intended to integrate care among multiple service providers, enhance the caregiving ability of the family, and maximize the potential of the child. I really like this definition, and I think you guys were talking when you first came in the room about there really isn't a standard definition of care coordination. And this, I think, really gets to the heart of care coordination isn't just a service that a doctor can provide. Families play a huge role in this. It's not something, I think, just involves medical. It involves, as they just said in their presentation, it involves schools, it involves the neighborhood, it involves your family life. And parents really need to be a part of kind of putting everything together. So not only from the work that I've done, but my own personal experiences, we want to be a part of that experience. We need to be a part of it. It's not something done for me, it's something done with me. The training structure, it's a one-day training. It's 8 hours. It's a very full day. It's co-facilitated or using a parent professional team. We've actually been pretty lucky in that the majority of the facilitators that we have trained, myself included, wear kind of both of the hats. And we found that to be, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we found that to be really, really key in helping, share our experience with families and help them along their journey. It's very interactive. There's lots of different activities. They're not just sitting there listening to us go blah, blah, blah. And I always say at the beginning, we've done some trainings with groups that, honestly, I don't have a lot of experience. Just for example, we did a training down in Chicago with the Sickle Cell Disease Association of Illinois. I really don't know anything about sickle cell. I did some research before I went, but I didn't get up there and try to pretend to them that I'm an expert on sickle cell. What I did is say, I have some really good information to share with you, and what my job is to help facilitate discussion to connect and use the information and the resources that are in the room. And that seems to work really, really well. We provide them with different tools and materials, including the medical home guide. We have a medical home guide that was developed by Region 4. It's a couple years old now, but a really good resource that's available on our website. And then we also provided participant stipends. This was really, really important. The participants get a $150 gift card to come to the day of training. That doesn't make it a cheap training, but we've been able to determine that that's really important for families I have to pay a provider at least minimum $10 an hour to come and sit with my child. You add in gas, a day off work, it adds up pretty quick. So we built in right from the beginning that participants did receive a stipend, and we just made it a $150 gift card so that they could get it right that day. They walked out with it. They had, a means of putting gas in their car to go home if that's what they needed. An evaluation, it had a really hefty evaluation, and I didn't have anything to do with that. We have some fantastic people in our office that are evaluation wizards, and we have a pre-training survey that they take prior to coming to the training. We have an after training, like a post-evaluation they do right at the end of the training. And then right now we're doing a 1-year follow-up. We're thinking of shortening that, but for now it's currently a 1-year follow-up. Training objectives, we define care coordination for them, and I think this is where it's really important that definition I showed you earlier, it's different things to different people. It's not just one cookie cutter thing. It's different things to different people, and we really talk about that in the training, is that it's not going to look the same for everyone. We identify and talk about the benefits of a medical home. I'll be the first to admit, before I came to this job 5 years ago, I didn't even know what a medical home was. I'd never even heard that term, and the funny thing was, when I call my doctor's office, it says, "Welcome to so-and-so pediatrics, a patient-centered medical home." I didn't know what that meant. And when we bring it up in the training and we get to that topic and we say, okay, now we're going to talk about a medical home, it's like blank stares. People don't know what that means. When you're not in a position to, be exposed to that, you don't have any clue, even if, like myself, you had one. We talk about partnering with providers, which is very important, communicating effectively, navigating insurance, how to evaluate resources. There's a lot of information out there. How do you know what you're looking at is good information? And then we also finish up with the importance of self-care and peer support, two things that are very key to, I think, being able to sustain long-term demand on you of having a child with special health care needs. My experience specifically, like I said, I was involved in developing the curriculum. We piloted it in all 7 states in our region. We have done 26 trainings. We typically have we can train up to 25 in a training. We have done 26 trainings related to Region 4. We have also trained other people to be facilitators in other collaboratives in other states, but we have done 26, and I have personally facilitated 22 of those. I just did number 22 last Wednesday, so I feel like I could do it in my sleep at this point. But that's over 350 families that we have trained in the couple of years that we've had this curriculum. For those of you who love the data, I brought a little bit. I mentioned that we had a pre-training survey, and what we did is we asked a lot of questions that kind of mirror the national survey for children with special health care needs, particularly around the MCHB, I always get it mixed up, MCHB 6 core outcomes. And what we found, and granted, keep in mind, these are people who are self-identifying the need for wanting more information, more training, was that they scored significantly lower than people on the national survey. And the people on the national survey were children with complex conditions. And for those of you who love data, I will tell you the percentages, and I had to write this down. Percentages who achieved each of the core outcomes and points on either side indicate a 95% confidence interval, whatever that means. But basically what we found is that these people had some pretty significant challenges. And they obviously identified that they needed some help with how to get better care for their child. Another question we asked in the pre-training survey was, who helps you coordinate care? And this data, by the way, is from our pilots the first year. And 73%, and this is really consistent with what we found over time, 73% said no one. That doesn't mean they don't have a care coordinator at their doctor's office. It means that when asked the question, who helps you coordinate care, almost 3/4 said nobody. That's a lot. Again, keeping in mind that these are parents who have identified the need to come and want this training, but if you add up all the others, I don't know if you can read them on the screen there, but we have discharge planners, school, friends, social worker, therapists, different people who you would expect to help someone with care coordination. But I think it's really surprising to us initially that there was so many parents that were coming to these trainings that said, it's on me, I have to do this. Training impact, obviously anytime you spend that kind of money, you want to be able to demonstrate some impact. And I think we've done a really good job at the one-year follow-up. Some of the questions that we ask are, have some of these things changed as a result of the training? How do you feel you are at organization? And people who made changes in these different areas, as you can see, they're all rather significant, including kind of one of the key ones for me was communicating with care providers. 72% report making changes to how they communicate with care providers. That's huge, because communication, and we spend quite a bit of time in that training talking about communication and really making an effort to empower the parents to feel like they are partners in their child's care. The other one is transition, and that particular question is for parents who have a child 12 years and older. When we asked them coming in if their doctor had talked to them about transition, it was 0. And 71% at the one-year follow-up reported, of the people who had a child age 12 and older, reported that they had initiated a conversation with their doctor. So that's pretty impressive, I think, to look at. How am I doing? Oh, I got 1 minute. What we have learned, empowered families are active partners. That helps them identify resources in their community, model strong partnerships, builds networks and natural supports, which is key, and really reaches a broad audience. We use the term parent very loosely. We've had step-parents, foster parents, grandparents, lots of different families. And I'll just talk about my own insights. There's a lot more information out there available to families. Families are coming to the table with a whole lot more information at their fingertips and really want to be valued and respected as equal partners in their child's care. And respect and build those partnerships comes from both sides. And it's okay not to have all the answers as a provider. I think I had a little story, but I don't have time. But that's probably one of the key things for me. I don't expect a doctor to sit there and give me, all the answers sometimes. I've come far enough along that I just expect the honesty, if you don't know, to say, we'll work together to get where we need to go. Thank you.